Folks, good morning. Welcome to Brain and Behavior. I just wanted to get a quick video sent out to you all, sort of a welcome slash introductory slash, I don't know, kind of, I guess, clarifying a few things, touching on some of the things about the course. I like to do this sometimes just in general, actually, in lieu of sending an email, because I'm sort of famous for like writing really extraordinarily over the top emails, slash short novel, I suppose it is. And particularly when I'm trying to convey like important information and pertinent things that you need to know about, it's kind of a pain in the ass when you can't even read through the whole thing without falling asleep or like drooling on your keyboard or whatever the case may be. So I'll try to keep it brief, give you some of the quick and dirty basics of stuff, and then we'll take it from there. So I apologize. I did want to get this sent out a little earlier in the week, but it's that's why I have a balloon floating in front of me for the moment. It's been birthday week around here, and so um, we do know how to party around this house. So it's been a busy one. At any rate, so introduction. Welcome to Brain and Behavior. I will be your fearless steward along this ride this term, and I am Christopher Collins. What you need to know about me? I didn't tell you much on the webpage. I did all my schooling in Montana. Any Montana folks in the class, give me a shout. We're already like fast friends. Did my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD all at University of Montana, Missoula. My area is experimental psychology with an emphasis on behavioral neuroscience. So I spend a lot of time doing comparative animal behavior stuff. I've worked with everything from fish to rats to dogs to monkeys to wolves to, well, and freshmen being the most strange of all of the species. And always with a sort of biological bent, an evolutionary sort of perspective on things. I also sort of do a background thing in clinical neuropsychology, where we do more, well, clinical assessment, diagnoses, things like that with individuals with various forms of brain injury, traumatic brain injury, stroke, dementia, tumors, really happy material, I know, but extremely fascinating in trying to get to the underlying neurology and things like that. So obviously, when it comes to a course like this, I've got quite a lot of passion for the subject. And as a matter of fact, well, this is my heartthrob course. This is my favorite course to teach. And that's for a lot of reasons. One, which is, I guess, already obvious, is just that I'm just obsessed and passionate about neuroscience and about the biology of, well, of everything. This course is also kind of a really sweet spot too, because here at, like, a 330 level course, you all have quite a lot of coursework under your belt at this point. So you've got a lot of psychology, a lot of other disciplines, a lot of framework, a lot of infrastructure already in place. And so now, as we dive into the material that we're going to get into over the course of this term, you got a lot of stuff to map it onto. You've got a lot of context and a lot of knowledge that's really going to help, I think, bring this material out in a way that I hope will not only like fascinate you, and here's where maybe I'm going to wax a little poetic, maybe a little philosophical, but quite frankly, this course I find to be so fundamental. This and any neuroscience course, quite frankly, because if we do this correctly, it breaks my heart that I'm not in a classroom with you all. Honestly, it really is. I'm trying to get used to this. It's good that we can do this still in COVID times, but it breaks my heart to not be in the classroom and get to do this with you all, because to my mind, this is such a fundamental aspect of, I mean, take anything you can think of in psychology, anything you want, behavioral, cognitive, developmental, psychological disorders, personality, like, I don't care. Go through, pick out anything you want. You don't have a damn one of those things unless you have the underlying neural networks that drive that. The brain is a mechanistic unit that underlies all of behavior, all of thought, all of, quite frankly, consciousness. If you want to get as sort of hoity-toity up there in the ethereal world as possible, we will touch on consciousness. And you have to sort of reach a little ways into a lot of other disciplines, into philosophy and anthropology and all these different arenas to try and really get a flavor for something as large scale as consciousness. But I'll make the argument, and I think it's an extraordinarily powerful one, that to have consciousness, you have to have the neuroscience. We will come across fascinating things throughout this term that I think will absolutely blow your mind. And a lot of the things that we will see will pertain to things like brain injury and the like. When you have particularly stroke or situations where you have very specified regions of damage, you can find very, very, very precise little corners of consciousness knocked right out. And so we'll go through, I'm going to rein myself in because boy, I could go off here. But the point being, we're going to range from the largest scale, talking about the nature of consciousness and awareness and being itself. And we're going to draw that all the way down too. And we're going to dive down until we're talking about the action of electrons and potassium channels and extraordinarily microscopic activities and the like. And then, of course, everything that lies in between, which is, well, everything. So my goal in a course like this is nothing less than to completely change you. I mean, that sounds audacious and that sounds maybe a bit much, but I mean, way beyond just impacting you academically, way beyond just informing your education in psychology or your degree or whatever it's going to be. I genuinely hope that when you walk away from this class, you think different, you feel different, because if you allow yourself to truly take in and to walk through the depth and the unbelievable implications of the things that we're going to talk about, it can't not change your worldview. That's my bias. So we'll see how you feel about it as we make our way through. I'm always interested to find out, but I have yet to have a term where people don't come out the other side, at the very least, going like, bro. So there you go. What else did I want to say? I suppose what I need to do is like watch my time. I'm already yakking at you for just shy of 10 minutes. So I'll leave the rest of it for another time. What I'll get at right now, I guess, is a little bit of the more practical stuff, which is that you're all getting into Canvas. You've been going through this thing. I know I've been seeing you guys. You're getting signed up for the MindTap. You were going through, you're doing your introductions and the things like that in the discussion. I haven't had a chance to dive into those, but I'm going to find some time today to do that and hopefully start to get to know each of you at least a little bit, even though we're on our sides of this particular screen. I love sitting in a room completely alone, talking to myself in front of a video, but I'm getting more used to it. But the pieces I wanted to at least quickly touch on, I know that in my previous message, and I've been emailing with a handful of you already about this too, which was the issue of a lot of the dates. So just in terms of getting Canvas to convert and bring information over, the dates were all wonky and all screwy. I went through very, very early this morning, and I think I got most everything in Canvas. I mean, there's just too many places to check. I'm going to keep going everywhere, but I think all of the important and relevant regions should be updated and correct. Also attached to this message that I'm sending you now, you should find a Word document in which I've laid out sort of the week by week, module by module. Here's what this week is. Here are the chapters that we're covering. Here are the MindTap assignments, and here are the discussions. Here's all the stuff that we're doing, and here are the due dates. Hopefully that should be very straightforward. So I just wanted to quick clarify a couple things about that. MindTap. So as you get into that, you probably saw and you probably read, but I do want to remind you, you're going to encounter a number of different activities, quizzes, various interactive pieces as you're going through the MindTap component, going through the book and working on those things. The two things that are going to count towards your grade, number one, are each of the comprehension checks. Comprehension checks, there's just a couple of points each as you're sort of going through and just making sure that the info is sort of clicking with you as you're making your way through it. And then the other is the chapter, I don't remember if it's called a chapter test or a chapter quiz, but either way, at the end of the chapter, there's a sort of run through, test, quiz, whatever the case may be. Those are the two things in MindTap that actually throw points in towards your grade. I went ahead and left everything else up and available because those are tools, and you may or may not want to use them. But for those who do, and I do suggest it, I mean, there's no reason not to use resources available to you. But, there's, what do they call them? Like mastery training, and there's like videos and video quizzes, and they're just various interactive things along the way that are meant to sort of bolster the material, reinforce the things that you're learning about. And those are all helpful and useful. So I leave them there and available. I just want to avoid any confusion around the fact that if they're not a comprehension check and they're not a chapter test quiz, they don't actually go towards your grade. But ultimately, they probably will, because the more of those things that you do, the better you're probably going to perform when it comes to the things that do count. So, for what it's worth. Discussion forums. Hopefully you kind of read through some of the sort of criteria, the expectations associated with those. Here are the sort of banner things that I would say in regard to that. Number one, it's a discussion. It's not about right and wrong answers. It's just about conversation, full stop. And of course, when it actually comes to the points and the grading and the things like that associated with the discussion forum, it's about seeing engagement. And so it's not that you can come up with the most sophisticated explanation and use the greatest number of like polysyllabic words and impressive things like that. It's, are you thinking through the stuff that we're reading about? We're talking about what? Let's go with the motor system, and you come across the basal ganglia and its relationship to Tourette's syndrome, and you have a cousin that's dealt with Tourette's, and you've also seen it in the movies, and you see the movie and it's people just doing the coprolalia thing. They're just screaming out curse words because that makes for funnier movies. But with your cousin, it's just these writhing motor tics that take place. And when you start to understand the inhibitory and excitatory nature of these structures of basal ganglia, the whole thing starts to come together. You start to understand the relationship between Tourette's, and then you see things like restless leg syndrome, and you begin to understand it's a basal ganglia issue too. And I'll be damned, there's another connectivity piece that has to do with Parkinson's disease. And so what I'm saying is, as you start to see these emergent pictures of these relationships, the discussion forum is just meant to be a place where you can say, I had no idea, or what, this really surprised me, this really troubled me, this really clarified my situation, or a person, or you can go any kind of direction you want, just showing though that you're engaged. And then you'll see too that, of course, for it to be a conversation or a discussion, you're meant to go in and also be replying to others, right? To be given a back and forth, reading some of what other people wrote. You don't need to go through every single post. You don't need to respond to every single person, but at least engage enough. People hopefully are going to be engaging in what you had to say. You can respond to that, etc., etc. So if you've read sort of the criteria, there's an idea of like sort of the base minimum that you should be contributing would be definitely one original post, your own, your topic, your idea, whatever you want to talk about. And then at like minimum, at least like 3 responses to other individuals. And then ideally, to really get up towards full points, it would be a greater than 3, at least 5, 6. But mind you, that's over the course of, well, that's what I'm going to come on to, course of the week bleeding into subsequent weeks. So let me explain what I mean by that quick. So you're going to see in Canvas and on the document that I sent you that I laid it out in the most basic format. Okay, here's week 1, module 1, chapter 1 is what we're covering. Here's the MindTap assignment. Here's the discussion forum. Here's the due date. Every one of the weeks, whatever module, whatever week it is, the MindTap assignments and the discussion forum, the minimum part for the discussion forum, are due that Sunday night, midnight Sunday of the week in which we've covered that information. Okay, that's nice, that's easy, that's straightforward. Let me make it a little more murky, but in doing so, I mean, in a good way, I think. So, hear me out. So with the discussion forum, when I say this minimum amount, the earlier in the week you can make your initial post, definitely the better. The earlier it's up, the more opportunity people are going to have to see it, reply to it, interact with it, and the like. And the sooner it frees you up to go in and start having conversations with other people's posts, as well as people who are responding onto your own post as well. Keep revisiting it. Go back over the course of time. So here's the thing about that Sunday due date. I don't close the discussion forum on that Sunday. I don't assign points at that end of the week on that Sunday. And definitely what I don't want is people stressing out about, oh my God, it's Sunday evening's coming up, I got to get all this stuff up, and just throwing out some verbiage on a handful of posts just to make sure that it's done and it's up and it's posted. That's not going to matter that much. What we do want to happen is to have the week that we're covering something, we want the lion's share of the activity to be in there. Everybody should have their initial post up within that week and a handful of responses and interactions. But those will continue. So as we go through the week where we're talking about neuroanatomy and you put up your post and you're interacting and you respond to some and you reply to some of the other people that are talking, and then it comes to Sunday night and then it's Monday morning and then it's Tuesday and we're on moving into the next subject, hopefully people are still going back and kind of tying up the conversations that were being had in the previous discussion. Not that it's got to be pushed to some ridiculous level, but that the conversations have played themselves out, that they have been substantive and thoughtful. You know, it's particularly the way that this discussion forum is laid out, you'll see that it is meant to be, as I say, engaged, involved, substantive, showing an engrossment in the topic. So, you know, obviously, or hopefully obviously, at this stage of where you're at in school, like, you know, that discussion posts that are just like, bro, right? Doesn't really count as a response. And I just say that because I actually see it a lot. So with that being said, you see the due dates that are put up on there, but understand when I say that, I'm not shutting them down on that Sunday night. I do want to see them continue to go on in terms of the discussion. But do understand too that with that sort of malleability surrounding the due date piece, I mean, the course is meant to work in a lockstep fashion and in a lockstep way in which we progress through it together. And particularly when it comes to the discussion forums, that is a place where we kind of all need to be at the same place. It's okay. There's going to be, especially in the world that we live in right now, things are going to come up. Apparently you guys have lives that exist outside of the classroom. I had no idea. And so when life asserts itself, that's all right. It's just that when we talk about discussion forums, if it starts getting too far out, you know, you haven't filled out the discussion from week 3, but now we're getting into like the end of week 5. Everybody else is pretty well moved on at that point. There's not going to be a lot of like quality interaction you're going to be able to engage in back in those. So those are going to be important to kind of at least try to keep up with in a reasonably timely fashion. Okay. In addition to that, the MindTap assignments. You'll see those are also for each of the chapters and the modules due midnight of that Sunday night. I'm not going to go in and shut them down on Sunday night. If you have not completed them for a particular chapter, few chapters, whatever the case may be, and it gets to Sunday night, don't not do it. If I'm being 100% directly honest about how this goes down, and this is giving rope kind of thing, you can really complete the Mind Tap assignments anytime you want to. The due dates are put there to try and keep you on track. If you want to be on track with the course, if you want to be where you best ought be as far as things go, try to keep on those due dates. But do understand that even if a couple weeks have passed, I'm leaving those assignments open and you can still go in and complete them. And that's at full credit too. So the only addendum I would throw on to that explanation is that you are gonna want to have those done prior to the exam on which that material is being tested. Which is to say, so as we go through these first handfuls of chapters leading to the first midterm exam, even if you don't have all of those Mind Tap assignments done, kind of coming up closer to that exam, even going all the way back here to like week 1, chapter 1, that sort of thing, you can still do it and you should still do it. And it's, of course, only going to be to your benefit when it comes to the exam portion itself. So I hope that makes sense. It is, again, when I put the due dates on there, as I say, it's meant to be a guide. It's meant to give you sort of metric to be able to keep on track, but they are not hard deadlines where, you know, doors are going to close, points are going to be lost to the ether and that sort of a thing. So I hope that helps clarify, in addition to just getting the damn Canvas page to represent like the year and term that we're in, small details like that. And I believe that pretty much covers everything I wanted to tell you. And it sure as hell better, because now I'm looking at this and I've been talking to you for over 20 minutes. So, wow, you thought my emails were long. Jesus. All right, I'm going to shut up and let you go. So, pleasure to meet you virtually. I'm extremely excited to be working with you this term. I'm not at all joking when I say I really hope this class has a big impact on you. And I'm so excited when I get to play any role in that. So please don't be a stranger. Please be in touch. That's why I'm here. My whole thing. I'm available for video chat, phone chat, email, whatever's going to be, the most helpful, the most useful. That's my whole thing. So please just communicate and take good care of yourselves out there. I do hope you're well wherever this finds you. And yeah, cheers.